Today is June 14th, 2013, and we are interviewing Mr. Stanley Olenjack in Springfield, Illinois. Mr. Olenjack was born on March 13th, 1946. My name is Cheryl Walker, and I'll be interviewing Mr. Olenjack. Mr. Olenjack, could you state for the record what branch of service, what your highest rank was?
Branch of service, United States Marine Corps, and I reached the rank of E7 Gunnery Sergeant.
And what war did you serve in?
The major war I was in was the Vietnam War.
Okay. And when you say major, was there other conflicts?
There was other little conflicts I had participated in several different countries.
Oh, okay. What years did you serve in?
What years did I serve?
Mm-hmm.
From November 1965 to January 1979.
Okay. Did you enlist?
Yes.
Okay. Where did you enlist?
Chicago, Illinois.
Okay. And where did you take your basic at?
My basic training was in San Diego, California.
Okay. And what was your MOS?
My basic MOS out of recruit training was an 1811, was a tank crew, a basic tank crewman. Was my what they call basic, but a Marine, every Marine is a grunt, infantryman, basically by knowledge, because that's what you always refer to in wars or whatever. But my specialty, they give you like a specialty MOS number, and I was like I said, a tank crewman, and a basic tank crewman, which is, they call it like a number 1811. They just have a bunch of numbers,
Okay. After your basic, where did you go from?
After basic training, I had to go to, I was at Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego for basic training, and from there, we were shipped over to up north to Camp Pendleton, California, one of the Marine Corps' largest amphibious bases. And I trained there in a basic infantry unit for several weeks. I don't remember how long it was, about 4 to 6 weeks there, on basic infantry weapons and maneuvers and that kind of thing.
From that point, what did you do?
From that point, I went to my specialty school, which was over at Camp Pendleton, an area called Del Mar, is where they had the amphibious tractors, and they had a tank school there. And I went to tank school for 4 weeks, where I was instructed how to become a crewman on any one of the positions on the M48 full battle tank.
Okay. Did you, when did you ship off to Vietnam?
After tank school, I was on leave for 30 days, and then I reported into Camp Pendleton, California, and this was July of, I believe it was July of 1966, to what was known as a staging battalion. The staging battalion is a 2-week staging, processing to going to Vietnam. Different tactical training on what a Vietnamese village looks like, what kind of encounters you'll be going through, what kind of booby traps to look out for, and all those kind of different things about Vietnam. It's about 2 weeks there, and from there, then I went after that training to Okinawa, Japan, to where that was like a processing center to pack up all our civilian clothes in boxes and only take what we needed to Vietnam in our sea bags, and to get caught up with our shots and all that kind of stuff here before we would take off. So that's where I was before I went to Vietnam.
Okay.
So I got to Vietnam, I would say, early August, my recollection. Some things I really don't recall.
How old were you when you decided to enlist?
19.
19. What made you decide to enlist?
I don't know. You know, my father was a Marine in World War II in the Marines, you know. And I was going to junior college. I was attending junior college and for about a year or so, and then I don't know, things wasn't going that well, you know, and everything. So I don't know. I was at that point, you know, don't know what to do. One of my good friends I had grown up with had enlisted in the Marines. He shoved off everything, or so I sort of like followed his steps.
How long were you stationed in Vietnam?
I was in Vietnam for a normal tour of the Marine Corps is 13 months. And then I extended after that for another 6 months. So I was like a little over a year and a half in Vietnam.
When you were in Vietnam, were you out in the field the whole year and a half, or did you get leave?
In the Marine Corps, within the 13-month period, you rate what is called two in-country R&Rs to different places. There was a place, there was a medical hospital up in Da Nang there called China Beach. And it was also a recreation area too, you know, only just for the wounded. The hospital was also like a recreation area. That was one of the areas. And the other area you could go to was in Saigon. You go to Saigon for what they call in-country R&R. And you rated two of those, I believe it was two of them, while you were in your 13-month period. And then you'd rate one out-of-country R&R. You can go anywhere, well, not anywhere, but they had specific places like Hawaii, Japan, Thailand, Australia, different places you can go for an out-of-country R&R. You rated one of those.
Okay, so did you take all three of those?
Well, the first one was an in-country R&R, and I chose to go to Saigon, and I hooked up with on this here bus we went down there and with I think it was a couple sailors I was with down there. And we were there that first night and we got real drunk and real bad. And the MPs secured our liberty and sent us back to our unit. So that took care of the in-country R&R, and my commanding officer took the other in-country R&R I had coming and just tore it up in shreds.
So you only got one?
Well, I had one for one day in Saigon. And then from the out-of-country R&R I was allowed to take, and I went to Hawaii.
Did you?
For that one, so that was all right. I learned my lesson from that in-country R&R, so I didn't. I tried to be more human.
So you had a great one day.
Right.
Did you keep in touch with? How did you keep in touch with your family when you were
Writing letters?
Writing letters. Mm-hmm. Did you? So were you out in the field, out in combat most of the time?
Most of the time, I was in tanks. As I said, I was in tanks. And when I first went there, I was a gunner on an M4. I don't think it was an M48. I forget the number of it, but it's like an M48A3, except it's a flamethrower tank. It fires napalm. You know, it has a big bottle inside there. A normal tank has a 4-man crew, which is a tank commander, a gunner, a driver, and a loader. The loader that loads those big shells in and under. But on a flamethrower tank, there's only 3 people. There's a tank commander, a gunner, and a driver. Because napalm was mixed up, you don't need a loader for that. So I was a gunner on the flamethrower. For a while when I was with the first battalion, with the H&S battalion, when I got assigned to tanks, I was in H&S company for the first tank battalion, and they were stationed right in the Chulai area, and and then later on I was in gun tanks, and I was a gunner, and I was a tank commander. We'll talk about that maybe later. But anyway, when you're in tanks, we supported the infantry. We were like the big brother of the infantry, because they needed fire support, and you couldn't bring artillery with you and stuff like that there. So they brought something big. So they always brought tanks. So we were always in support of infantry units. So there was like in a platoon of tanks, and there's 3 platoons to a company. There's first, second, and third platoon, and I was in I think second platoon when I was in flamethrowers, and in the platoon there's 5 tanks. So there's what they call a light section and a heavy section, and what they mean by that is the light section had 2 tanks, and the heavy section had 3 tanks. Because you had 2 sections there. So those 2 sections were always out somewhere in the field in support of infantry. No matter, maybe this company, needs tanks, so the light section will go there, or this here battalion needs tanks, so the heavy section will go out there. But you're always in the field. 90% of the time, you're in the field. And if you're not in the field, you're in what is called a base camp, a company base camp, which is, in the boonies somewhere. It's all concertina wires and bunkers, and it's just like being in the field, because they attack those hills. Basically hills are what they were. They get attacked too, which is, I just want to make the point between Vietnam and World War II. I don't know if you've heard this yet. But in World War II in the Pacific, the Marines, they get on a ship and they sail to an island. They go out maybe for a week, 2 weeks, through maybe 4 weeks, and fight, get back on that ship, roll around. In Vietnam, you were in a war every day. There was no in and out. You might have went back to the base camp there, but at the base camp, it wasn't all luxury, because during the daytime you were working on your tank, cleaning the weapons, everything, and at night you're either in your tank on a perimeter somewhere around your base camp, or you were in a bunker, because you never know, who's going to attack the hill. They know you're there, so they might attack you. So there's a big difference, between World War II and Vietnam. Vietnam, 13 months of war, versus, like I said, in World War II, these guys were in and out. So, I just want to make that point. There are a lot of people, don't really. I want to know, like, how long were you in combat? Well, I don't know, I was in combat for 13 months. And that's how you look at it. Just like what's going on today in Afghanistan, Iraq. They're in it every day. So.
And when you say you were in it every day,
right.
You didn't have downtime. You had to be alert 24/7.
You're always alert 24/7, no matter where you are. You just mentioned the word downtime. About I think it was every 5 months, your tank had to go to battalion for service. Like you bring your car, for service. So the tank had to go for service. So you had a little downtime there in the battalion area, down there, maybe 3-4 days, something like that there. But basically, the war is 24/7. So you never know what's going to happen.
Would you go back to your base camp, daily?
No, we'll be out in the field. If we're going out to grunts, we're going to go on a sweep, a patrol, or an operation, a major operation. You don't go back all the time. The only time you go back is the infantry if you're going on a sweep, maybe. And very seldom did tanks go on sweeps. So I've been on quite a few sweeps myself there, but those are out, and then you're back in again. Like when you're asking her, but 24/7 usually. You have to be alert because you never know. I mean, if you're out there in the field, a bullet's going to get you. You're back there, artillery, starts coming in, so you never know what's going to happen.
Okay, so you were a gunner.
I began my career in tanks as a gunner.
Okay, and you, from that point, where did you go?
I was a gunner in H&S Company, 2nd Platoon. And then the battalion, we went on a float and we moved out of Chilai and moved up north to Da Nang. At that time, the battalion, they had, like I said, 3 platoons of flamethrower tanks. So what they did was they split up the platoons. The 1st platoon went to Alpha Company, which is a part of the 1st Tank Battalion. There's three letter companies in the battalion: Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, and of course H&S Company. H&S Company is all the supply and tactical and clerical and all that kind of stuff, and the cooks and all kind of stuff there. But all the line companies are Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie in the 1st Battalion. And what they did was, like I said, they took the 1st platoon of tanks and they said, you now belong to Alpha Company. And I was in a 2nd platoon. They said, all your 5 tanks are now in Bravo Company. And then the 3rd platoon, you are all now in Charlie Company. So there was no more H&S flamethrower tanks in H&S Company Battalion. They were within the letter companies. So the 2nd platoon that I was in, we got assigned to Bravo Company. Bravo Company, 1st Tank Battalion there. And of the 5 tanks, we only had 3 serviceable tanks. The other 2 were, I don't know, I'm going to call it shell shock, or just destroyed by the enemy after time, and they just had to be shipped back to Okinawa, and sometimes they weren't replacing it. Maybe that was their thought of breaking it down there. So anyway, the tank that I was on, we went to Bravo Company and got assigned to 3rd platoon. So there was 5 gun tanks and 1 flamethrower tank. See, so they had 6 tanks now. And that was the next move that we had made. I believe it was on Hill 41. We went where Bravo Company, where the CP was, the camp place. It was on Hill 41. That was the first stop we made, and we stayed there for a while before we moved up further, creeping further north to further hills as we went there. But that's was my next move for the question you asked.
And you were on?
I was on a flamethrower until the tank got destroyed. Shortly after, I think it was up on, I think it was on Hill 55 then. A lot of the areas in Vietnam, somebody named a lot of the areas out there after the Old West. And the area adjacent to our hill on Hill 55 was a flat land out there. It was called Dodge City. Well, why did they call it Dodge City? They called it Dodge City not only to name it after the old Dodge City of the West, well, it was because it's full of snipers out there. So you're always dodging snipers. So that's why I got the name Dodge City. But anyway, we were out there on a sweep, and the driver drove over a tank, drove over a landmine that was electronically set somewhere in the bushes there. The enemy probably had a couple long wires or something there, just standing there, just waiting for something of high value, like a tank or a tanker truck with full gasoline or something like that to blow up there. So unfortunately, that was the tank. That was my tank that was there, and it put a crack in the hull. Now a tank, underneath what they call the hull, like the belly of it, underneath it, is 12 inches of homogeneous steel. And this here landmine cracked it out so big, making the tank unserviceable, and they had to ship the tank back to Okinawa. And the commanding officer of the company says, there's no new tank coming there, so they made me a gunner on a gun tank. So I was in on gun tanks, and eventually I became a tank commander. And after now I say I blew up because I was a tank commander. After I blew up my second tank there, I went to different things, into the infantry, into a search and operation group, and a TAC unit, which is a combined action company to different Marines and Army and Vietnamese Marines. We would be in a village and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm really getting ahead of myself here.
As a tank commander,
Right.
what do you do?
You command. A tank commander stands up on top of the tank. You're in what they call a tank commander's hatch there, and about this much of your body is sticking up here, about from the waist up there. In front of me, I have a 50 caliber machine gun in front of me, and this here cupola, what they call cupola, goes around the circles. I can run this thing around, go in any direction I want here. And what you do is you command the tank. I mean, you have to give the commands for the driver where to go. When you engage the enemy, you have to give the commands to the gunner what kind of rounds I want in what they call the main gun. Because there's white phosphorus, there's high explosive, there's anti-personnel, there's anti-tank rounds, and you're the director of the war for the tank. You have to keep it, try to keep it out of harm's way.
Now, when they made you tank commander, was that a promotion?
Oh yes, that's a promotion. After you just don't. You're not born a tank commander. You got to work your way up. The gunner, tank commander is the most important job. The gunner is like the second, and I think the driver, then the loader, as far as importance on a tank there, because if something should happen, because something should happen to the tank commander, the gunner goes up there, because the tank commander also has the same controls almost as the gunner does down there for firing off the main gun. I can fire the main gun for my position as tank commander as well as the gunner. A lot of times, if the gunner doesn't feel well, either something's wrong with him there, I'm taking over, taking over the controls, so.
So how long was your career as a tank commander?
Well, maybe about 6 months. About 6 months was a tank commander, and then second tank got blown up there, and then the commanding officer said, "Hey man, these tanks are getting blown up left and right out here, and they're not giving us any more tanks. Your tank has to go, and go back to Okinawa, and there's no new tank coming in its replace, And I have several things if you want to do, I mean, there's a need in the infantry, there's a need here, a need there, and that's why I went to they said there's a CAC unit, Combined Action Company. I went to that Combined Action Company. I packed my bags and off I went.
And where was that at?
That was in Tam Lee. That was up everywhere. Most we were. It was in the Plain Tri Providence, which was the northern part, right near the DMZ, you know, around there, and a little village up here in the northern part of South Vietnam. I was up there in a village there. They grew rice, and we were basically there, I guess, to protect the crop of rice. So, because you know, being that close to the North Vietnamese just come down there and take over a village, take what they want. You know, so we were more or less like security guards. There we go on sweeps at night, patrols at night. We'd have LPs, listening posts, and stuff like that. So we're, you know, always going. And most everything, you know, if you're familiar with the Vietnam War, which you should be, with a lot of interviewing you're doing there, most of the fighting went on at night, not during the daytime. You know, but and that was with a lot with the Army. The Army seemed to be in the southern part of South Vietnam, and the Marine Corps was an I Corps, which is the northern part. So what we had to deal with, not only did we have to deal with the Viet Cong, claiming Triumph Providence, but we had to deal with the North Vietnamese Army. You know, and these guys weren't black pajamas, you know, little funny hats and shower shoes. These are uniformed soldiers, Ho Chi Minh's uniform army that we were fighting up there in North Vietnam. The northern part of Vietnam, you know. So.
Did they have more training?
Sure, they're trained. They have boot camps and all that kind of stuff, you know. Uniforms, ID dog tags, and a pay, what do you call that, a paymaster. You know, so I mean, it's a regular, that was Ho Chi Minh's army. You know.
Did you carry anything for good luck?
No, I don't recall carrying anything for good luck. I didn't believe in good luck. I don't think I believed in it. You know, it wasn't luck. I mean, you just had to protect your ass. With no luck to that. You know, you just had to do what you had to do.
You mentioned that you were a detainee for 7 days.
Right.
Can you explain the difference between the classification of a detainee and a POW?
A POW is a prisoner of war, and a prisoner of war is usually encamped in a prison camp, whether it be rural or up in Hanoi, where it was a regular prison. A detainee is a person who is captured, okay, and that person is in transit to going to one of these places eventually, see, because there is a bounty, you know, for Americans, and that's where I got this here little X from, see, because the Viet Cong would get a bounty for you, see, and that's how they prove that you were there. They give you a little homemade tattoo there on the wrist there, so when they go to turn you in, they get their money, so they'll get, you know, screwed over by the Vietnamese, you know. So that, I mean, that's what a detainee. A detainee is an almost prisoner. You're not a prisoner. I mean, you're captive, you know, but you're not imprisoned, you know, which is a better outcome. You could, you know, if you could have a better outcome before you go to a regular prison.
How did you get, before you got to a camp, a POW camp, how did you get released?
We were in a small, I guess, like a night camp. And the troops I was with was that I got, you know, some of us got captured and some of them didn't. But the ones that didn't get captured, they had, they followed like tracks or whatever. I don't know how they do it, but they followed and they searched us out. And that's how I asked them, how'd you guys ever find us? I said, well, we went ahead and we found, we think we located you, that we were right behind you. We were located right behind you, and we had to do something quick because otherwise you get too far and you'll be on transportation up into Laos or whatever, then they're going to start taking you up north. Okay, so I said, well, what'd you guys do? He said, well, we called a company commander, and we held out for about 24 hours, and they sent the Navy SEALs out, with a lot of Marines from the CAC unit, and the Marines from the CAC unit went ahead and did the security on the mission, and the Navy SEALs went in, got us, got what they did with it. They went there, and there was 4 guards. They just went there and just had nitrous stuck them, just slit their throats, and we were out of there. They got us out of there.
How many? Go on.
There was 4 of us.
There was 4 of you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you immediately go back into combat?
Yeah. I mean, after a while, it might have been a day or 2, but there was no, you can go home now or something, There was none of that, Right.
Did you have any special, when you came home from Vietnam, did you stayed in the service after Vietnam?
Yes.
For some time?
Mm-hmm.
And were you mostly stationed in the States?
No, you're always stationed. I mean, the home base is always in the States. I was never stationed, in Okinawa. There's a base in Okinawa and Hawaii, basically. I think the Marines had. I was never stationed there. I was mostly the United States was the station there, but you get shipped different places there, So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You received several different. You received 2 presidential citations. Can you explain what those were?
Those were unit decorations, which unit could be, it could be a battalion, it could be a company, it could be a platoon. And this was a platoon presidential unit citation for the first one was from the Operation Colorado, one of the major operations in Vietnam. And the other one was, I believe, was Arizona, Operation Arizona.
And you also, the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry, what actually is that?
What is it? It's a award as presented by the president of South Vietnam. Just like we have our awards, Bronze Stars and Silver Stars and stuff like that. There was the president of South Vietnam. He had his little awards too. That one.
And you received a Purple Heart.
Right, I received a Purple Heart for a wound there, and I've been actually wounded about 4 or 5 different times there, but a lot of times you don't have time or anything to really deal with it, And in Vietnam, I don't know if you're aware of it there, but if you receive 3 Purple Hearts in country, you're out of there. you know, from the 13-month period. So if you got 3 Purple Hearts your first month, you're out of there, you know. And another thing too, you know, a lot of the people wanted to get out of there, and some of us didn't want to get out of there, you know. And I was one at that time, you know, 19-year-old kid, and I didn't want to get out of there, you know. So, and a lot of the ones are really, I mean, I could have got a Purple Heart for them, but you know, they didn't. The RCO didn't believe, and you know, let's keep fighting. Well, kind of deal. You just can't. Oh, I'm hurt. That's it. You know, stop the war. You know, kind of a deal. You can't do that. Keep going. You know.
Did you have plenty of supplies?
Not really. We stole everything from the Army. Seriously. You know, they would abandon tanks and gear, and we'd go over to some of their camp places and steal from them, or else we'd go down to the ships at Da Nang where the Navy was, and we take things like we go to the supply sergeant there and tell him we lost our K-bar. You know what a K-bar is? K-bar is a Marine knife. It's about so big, you know. It's called K-bar. You know, Marines have them. They keep them under hip or down in the boot there. And we go to the supply, and we get these here K-bars. We go down to Da Nang to the ships, and the sailors love them. We get a whole bottle of Jack Daniels for a K-bar. So we be so I mean, you know, like they have a lot of supplies. I know. You know, the clothing, there could have been more clothing, you know, I had developed, you know, amongst my list of, you know, disabilities I have, you know, one is I had received jungle rot on my feet, you know, from inadequate shoes and inadequate boots and socks and clothing could have been a lot better too, you know.
So you had jungle rot.
Jungle rot on my feet, yeah. My feet are all messed up. I have flat feet, calluses all over them, on the bottom, you know. Everything there, a couple of hammer toes, nails are all shot.
Did you have any other problems with other types of things that you got while you were over there in Vietnam?
Well, the big one was exposure to Agent Orange. See, the Agent Orange, you know, they come in and they spray that Agent Orange, and tanks were high up off the ground. See, so near the trees, you know, breathing this stuff in. Also, when we were in flame tanks, the Air Force might miss a sector, you know, so they get the flame tanks out there to burn the rest of it off. You know, so we're right in the area now. But the Agent Orange is the biggest problem causer, you know, to health. You know, I have ischemic heart disease, atrial fibrillation, atherosclerosis, my tibial and femoral arteries in both legs are totally occluded. And I have stents in both of my, what they call a common iliacs, that comes off the aorta comes down, you know, like one big tube, and it splits off like this here. It goes to the legs there, and that one section of those arteries there is called the common iliacs. I have stents in there, so I can get circulation in my legs. I go to the gym, and I have to, well, because of the ischemic heart disease, I, you know, do weights, and I walk 7 miles on a treadmill every day to keep the circulation. You know, if I was to freeze up, I'd lose my legs. Circulation would be gone. The toes will start turning black. The toes will be gone. The feet, the legs, it'll be gone. You know, I have renal stenosis, high blood pressure. Um, I have a 70% rating for post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, so, you know, it's all from 90% of it is from Agent Orange. Now, I've been shot, I've been bayoneted. You know, those aren't problems. You know, it's these other things. I know some people there that they lost a leg in Vietnam. You know, they had their leg blown off for a landmine or whatever. You know, a friend of mine, John Fulton. And I told John, I said, you'll probably live longer than me with that one leg missing, because I got a bad heart now. You know, so, you know, and that there, so I'm on 100% disability. You know, I'm unable to work, you know, hold a job down because, you know, PTSD and stuff. But a lot of us, I don't know if you ever heard the term, from Vietnam, mainly because of like Agent Orange or PTSD, that not all wounds are visible. What else you want to know?
Is there anything else you'd like to share with me today?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you want to hear none of that other stuff. I don't think.
Do you still stay in touch with any of your fellow Marines?
Yes, I do. We have well, see, we were nicknamed the battalion commander. One day he was out for something during operation there, and our platoon was out there fighting with the tanks and all there, and he went ahead and he said to our platoon leader, he said, "Who's those Marines out there and those tanks out there?" He said, "That's my platoon." He said, "That's the 3rd platoon, sir." He said, "That's not a platoon. They're a bunch of animals. That's a herd of animals out there, you know." Then we had gotten the nickname the 3rd Herd. And 2008, our platoon leader, who was a platoon leader, was a lieutenant, 1st lieutenant platoon leader. Our lieutenant started contacting people from the platoon, from the herd. See, so, and there's also an organization here in the United States called the United States Marine Corps Vietnam Tankers Association. So if you served in anti-tanks or in tanks in Vietnam, and in any one of the 3 battalions, there's an organization that we belong to. But anyway, the lieutenant, he started tracking down people from the herd, you know, and he got us all, well, you know, a lot of them got killed, and a lot of them died since then, you know. But we, after 42 years, I think it was 1967, the last of us left platoon, and we didn't reunite until 2009. And we have our little platoon reunion once a year somewhere, you know, central Illinois somewhere, or central United States somewhere. We were down there in Missouri a while ago, and then every other year the Vietnam Tankers Association has the big one, different places. We're going down to San Antonio this year for that one. So, yeah.
What I would like to say to you is I would like to thank you for the time that you gave our country, for the time that you served in the service. And I would also like to thank you for the honor that you have given me to share in your history and your story. And I would like to thank you for allowing me to interview you today.
There's one more thing.
Yes.
I don't know how to put it. Everybody asks you a question about what was it like in Vietnam, you know, and you try to pinpoint something to have, you know, people who weren't there to relate to, you know. You wonder what Vietnam was like. What was it like? Vietnam was like the terror attack in Boston or 9/11. But every day, every day. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
Okay.